Hello and welcome back to Off the Post. In today's episode, I'll be discussing my top 3 unpopular opinions. But before that, as always, please like, comment, and subscribe. It's very much appreciated, and it goes a long way in helping me build a small community on my channel. Okay, we've recently just hit 241 subscribers. We're 9 away from 250, and if we can hit my goal, I'll be absolutely over the moon. I'll be so buzzing, I'll be so made up, and yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you for all the recent support on our videos, all the likes and the comments on social media as well. It definitely got unnoticed. And yeah, let's get straight into the episode, shall we? Kicking off with the first unpopular opinion, it would be that Arsenal have a better chance to win the Premier League than Liverpool, okay? Just because Arsenal are so hard to break down in defence, aren't they? Those main three defenders in Saliba, Gabriel, and David Raya as a goalkeeper, of course. It's so hard to score past them. They are amazing. I feel like for me, those two are probably the best centre back partnership in the Premier League. Okay, adding with that the full backs in Timber. Who else is in? Who plays left back sometimes? You've got Calafiore. You've got Miles Lewis Skelly. For me, they're amazing, and they're so hard to break down. Not many teams have scored past them this season, and even when they have scored past them, Arsenal's attacking players and midfielders and attacking players always make sure to find the goals, either to draw the game or even to, uh, get a late winner, if you like, in the likes of Brichese, Bukayo Saka, Gyökeres, Madueke, whoever it is, they always find a way to score goals to win the game. Maybe this Premier League will come down to who has the better defence, and for me, Arsenal is currently winning that over Liverpool. Because if you look at Liverpool's defence just quickly, they look so shaky, don't they? Kirkes hasn't really had that great of a time in the Premier League for Liverpool. He hasn't really adapted to that team as quickly as you thought he would have. Connor Bradley as well. For me, he hasn't really taken on that mantle from where Trent Alexander-Arnold left. It's very easy to be a backup player rather than, your main starter. And now that Frimpong's also injured or just coming back from injury, Connor Bradley has to fill into that role to be the main starter. And he's looked far off the pace, hasn't he, so far, Connor Bradley? Don't get me wrong, he had a few good performances last year, and maybe the Liverpool fans were sort of overhyping him a little bit too much, because now that he's been the main starter for a few weeks, he just hasn't looked quite comfortable in that position. And when we talk about one of their main centre-backs in Konate, he's looked totally off it as well this season, hasn't he? He hasn't looked like he has done in previous years with Van Dijk next to him. So for me, 1 out of the 4 defenders in Van Dijk, who's playing well at the moment, probably isn't good enough to win you that Premier League title, isn't it? So from that point of view, it is a little bit annoying. And when you've got Alisson in there, who's sort of, I think he might have a slight injury as well, because the Georgian goalkeeper in Madashile sort of replaced Alisson in recent games. So from that point of view, the Liverpool defenders are sort of trying to get used to how the goalkeeper wants to play and vice versa. So from that standpoint, there's a lot of change in that Liverpool defence, and also maybe it might come down to they might have done a little bit too much business in the summer transfer window. They might have too many players in their squad, if you like, and Arne Slot doesn't know his best starting 11, which he sort of needs to get down to the ground straight away, doesn't he, if he wants to sort of challenge for those Premier League titles. Don't get me wrong, it might be a blip. They might just be going through a small little slump at the moment where they can sort of try and bounce back straight away. We don't know. We haven't. It's still very early on in the season. There's only been 7 games played, of course. So it might be a blip. It might be a slump. We'll just have to wait and see after the international break. Okay. For me, I do think Arsenal have a better chance to win the Premier League now. I feel like I've changed my mind, because I did say Liverpool were going to win it at the start of the season. However, I just don't see it. I don't see how that defence gets better, because you've seen it in those big games. Losing against Chelsea at the weekend, right? Absolutely abysmal. The way they lost to Chelsea was so outrageous. Okay, like for me, in those games, Liverpool have always sort of managed to get that victory, those 3 points over the line. Chelsea scoring in the last minute through an Esteval goal. Okay, that's what Liverpool used to do in reverse, okay, and the opposition are doing it to them. So from that point of view, it is a little bit dangerous, just because you might think to yourself, are they the same team they used to be last season? You're not too sure. And also, there's a lot of question marks around Mohamed Salah sort of playing bad recently, not tracking back, if you like. But for me, again, I feel like Mohamed Salah, you can't bet against him, can you? Because every time you do it, he always proves you wrong. So for me, Mohamed Salah will come good in the end. He probably will still score about, 15 to 20 goals this season. It just, I feel like the team is sort of unbalanced at the moment, and as soon as that balance does come good for Arne Slot, I feel like those attacking players will thrive and will get the goals. You know, you could also say Alexander Isak hasn't really impressed that much, has he? Maybe it's a two-up-top formation, I'm not too sure, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, okay, moving over now to the second unpopular opinion. I think that Crystal Palace could qualify for Champions League football this season, okay? If you think about their main structure of the squad, okay, in the likes of Mateta, Adam Wharton, Margehi and Dean Henderson, okay, those four players in particular, the spine of the team is absolutely fantastic, and I feel like those four players could carry Crystal Palace to a Champions League spot, okay? Don't get me wrong, whether that's top four or maybe top five as well. If they can get, you know, a fifth position spot, okay, that'd be absolutely amazing, because in recent seasons we've seen the likes of Newcastle and Aston Villa compete for those, you know, for that number fifth spot, okay. But for me, I reckon Crystal Palace can be that team to go and edge it over those two and other teams down in there, like the likes of Chelsea, Man City, Everton, Nottingham Forest, if you like, maybe someone else in there as well. So yeah, I really do feel like Crystal Palace can do that. When we've seen their performances this season, I really do feel like so far their defensive structure, once again, it's absolutely amazing. They're so hard to beat. They're so hard to score past. They're so hard to score past. It's just whether or not their attacking players can keep scoring the goals. Because yes, they've got Mateta who can score 10 plus goals in the Premier League. Yes, you've got Ismail Sarr who can score goals here and there as well. Who can chip in with, I want to say, you know, 5 to 8 goals this season. It probably could get, you know, 10 plus goal contributions this season if you're including assists in there. However, do they have like do they have a third attacker in there on that left hand side to sort of, you know, replace Abucheze's goals and assists? I'm not too sure. That might just be a downfall of Crystal Palace this season. I don't know if they've got enough goals, enough, you know, squad depth to sort of achieve those top 5 positions. For me, I'm not too sure. And also, you got to think about whether or not Margehi will leave in the January transfer window, because if he does leave, then the whole sort of, you know, debate around Crystal Palace potentially qualifying for Champions League might be up for grabs. And I don't think that's going to happen if one of their star defenders in Margehi does leave, because he's different gravies and he's absolutely amazing. He's a Rolls Royce of a defender. I don't really like using that term, but he is. He's so good at everything, isn't he? When we think about, you know, him playing at the back, when we think about his recovery speed, when we think about his tackling ability, his heading ability to clear all of the crosses away, if you like, he's so good at reading the game. He's so good at all these different, you know, different key strengths and key attributes of what you want a defender to be. He's like an abundance, you know. He's also got that leadership quality. His leadership isn't from, you know, shouting at the players and telling them where everyone needs to be, if you like. It's sort of leading from the back and sort of, you know, leading by example, if you like, in that sort of aspect where, you know, he just elevates everybody's games to the best as they can be, if that sort of makes sense. So yeah. Okay, moving over now to the third and final unpopular opinion. It is Nottingham Forest are in a relegation battle and potentially get relegated under Ange Postecoglou, just because I really don't rate the manager, okay? The Australian manager is completely opposite compared to Nuno Espirito Santo from that aspect where you got to think to yourself, under Nuno, they're more of a counter-attacking team where they sit back really deep, in defence, of course, and they just sort of counter-attack teams to get their goals. Whereas Ange Postecoglou is so high attacking, where, you know, he has such a high line, that he expects the attackers to, you know, press high up the pitch. Whereas I don't think their players can do that. In the looks of Chris Wood, you've not really seen him press up high up the pitch, can you? In every team that Chris Wood's been in the likes of Burnley, in Nottingham Forest, in Newcastle, they've not really, you know, pressed high up the pitch, have they? In those teams. So from that point of view, I don't know whether or not Chris Wood will be able to adapt to how, you know, Ange Postecoglou will want to sort of want his team to play. And for that reason, why I feel like they are going to be in a relegation battle. Seen it so far, they've played 5 games under Ange and they've not won a game yet, have they? So from that point of view, it is very, very frustrating from a Nottingham Forest fan's perspective, just because they were potentially competing for the Premier League title, they were competing for Champions League, they were competing for Europa League, obviously qualified for Europa League in the end, and now they're going to be in a relegation battle the next season, which is so, so disappointing for them. Because if you look at their squad, I was saying at the start of the season, they probably had, one of the best transfer windows. Their squad on the whole is absolutely amazing. So for me, I feel like they will have enough to get out of that relegation battle, but it just depends when that will be in the season, of course. I reckon it'll probably be the back end of the season, like a few months before the season ends, where they probably will have enough quality in there to sort of just about, edge it over the other teams in the likes of Leeds United, Sunderland, Burnley, Wolves, Brentford, all these other teams that are in relegation battle. I feel like Nottingham Forest will probably be the one that gets out of the relegation battle first and the fastest, if you like, as well. It's very unfortunate because, I feel like this season probably will be all focusing on the Europa League once again, quite similar to Spurs the season last year where, they had a bad time in the Premier League but managed to win the Europa League. I'm not going to say Nottingham Forest can win the Europa League, but they can go far in the competition. I want to say quarter-finals to semi-finals at least. If you look at that squad, they've got so much depth in there. I just don't know whether or not I don't know if that suits the Premier League, that's all I'm saying. But yeah, let's end the video with some questions. How do you feel about Arsenal having a better chance than Liverpool to win the Premier League? Do you feel like this Premier League title will come down to who has the best defence? Do you feel like Arsenal have the better defence than Liverpool? What's going on with Liverpool? What's wrong with Liverpool at the moment? Can Arne Slot change it? How do you feel about Crystal Palace having an outside chance of qualifying for the Champions League? Can they get at the number 5th spot? Do you feel like they can keep Marguerite in the January transfer window? Do you feel like Adam Wharton will be one of the best players? Do you feel like Mateta can score the goals? And yeah, how do you feel about Nottingham Forest being in a relegation battle? Do you feel like it's such a massive system change into how Ange Postecoglou wants to play? And do you feel like Nottingham Forest will be able to adapt to them quickly enough? Because I haven't had a pre-season, I've had Nottingham Forest with Ange Postecoglou. So for me, I just don't see it working out. Do you reckon Ange Postecoglou could potentially get sacked if he doesn't get enough results on board? Because obviously he's lost his first 5 games of the season. And yeah, that's where we're getting the video, okay? But before that, as always, please like, comment and subscribe. It's very much appreciated. And it goes a long way in helping me build a small community on my channel. We've recently just hit 241 subscribers. I just want to say a massive thank you for all the support on most recent videos, all the likes and the comments on social media as well. It definitely got noticed, and yeah, I really do hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.